my dear friends, I'm really sorry that we didn't manage to see all of you in this recent annual fundraising trip because of the COVID virus. Anyway, more importantly, all I want to say is a short message to say it was really special seeing you all, sharing time, sharing the odd beer here with you all. More importantly, for those I didn't get to see, I really missed that opportunity, and obviously we'll reschedule. And once we know what's going on, sadly it can't be during Painted Dog Field season because Painted Dogs come first. However, please keep supporting us, and more importantly, we've added on to the end of this little clip my very last presentation. And as you've all got tons of time sitting in armchairs and in social isolation, maybe have little groups of less than 20, you can all come and watch. Anyway, seriously, love to you all. Thanks for your support over this year, last year, future supporters, and enjoy the video. Thank you very much, and I'll be back in Zimbabwe soon. Bye.
Rasmussen. I'm waiting for the day I can write and say, hug his chair. It's over. But anyway, seriously, well, thank you so much, Joel. And actually, I'm going to just share a little bit of, Joel, a little bit of dirt on Joel. Really. Here we go. He said I'm like the first conservation speaker of this series, right? He said that earlier on. Well, what I didn't know at the time was when he approached me, he said, well, we have this conservation series. Would you like to be a speaker in it? I'm like, and then oh, who was the last one? You're the first. But I love that approach. I'm going to share a similar story with me and one of my graduate students, now graduate student, I'm going to share that right at the end of the presentation. A similar sort of tack, a similar sort of approach. But it's great, Conservation, we have to do whatever it takes to achieve the goal. And the goal is conservation in all our cases. And I'm going to share with you a little bit tonight about the dogs. Some of the challenges, I'm happy. I mean, we've got 2 grants coming up just to keep the grey cells going on anyone who's got any scientific action. I happen to know there's a few in the audience, so I've got to slip those in. But seriously, and I've been working with painted dogs for 33 years now. And I'm always asked, how did I get involved with painted dogs? And I was working with reptiles. I was a clandestine herpetologist. Clandestine, of course, nothing clandestine. That's that kind of just a bit of. And but as a kid, I grew up and I started working at the Natural History Museum. Well, I badgered this curator. In fact, and I remember thinking I was like 9 years old and I wanted to write to this curator of herpetology who was the guru on reptiles in Africa. It turned out I didn't know that I was going to be mentored from 9 years, 10 years old with one of the world authority on African reptiles. And I'm thinking as a 9-year-old kid, I'm thinking, it's a story I've never told before. I'm thinking, how does a 9-year-old, how do I get through to like a senior curator in the Natural History Museum in Zimbabwe? And I thought, well, he must have known I'm a kid. And that kind of won't be right. I've got to hit him at the right level. So I typed a letter, thinking he won't notice. So I borrowed my mum's typewriter, bang, bang. Dear Dr. Broadley, make sure I've got all this. And then, of course, new piece of paper, because I'd made a typo mistake, started again. None of this backspace stuff. And what it was that. And then I threw away that. And then one day I think, I don't know what to say. I can't say, my name's Greg. I'm 9 years old and I'm sure you want to know me. And then what happened was I found a snake, which was a wolf snake that died. And I'm like, well, I know, this is my in. I'm going to send him this specimen. And so I'm going to send the big docs in already in my mind. I bought all my pocket money had gone on his big biblical themes, very big tome on reptiles of Southern Africa, and I thought I'm going to send him this. Of course, this was in Zimbabwe because I grew up there. And I go to my mother and I said, can I have all my pocket money, please? She said, what do you want all your pocket money for? I said, so I've got to buy something. I said, when you're going to town, by the way, where I grew up in a very rural area, town was like an hour and a half journey. And she said, okay, fine. She was like, what's it for? I said, secret. So she said, where do you want to go? I said, the pharmacy. And she's like, okay, fine. You know, she knew I didn't have anything spooky. I go to the pharmacist and I said, I want some formaldehyde, please. And there's this little 9-year-old squat up. So he said, so what do you want it for? I said, I've got a snake. I want to send it to Dr. Broadley, like he would know, like everyone in the whole world would know who the great Dr. Broadley is. They do now, but they didn't then. Anyway, so he said, how much do you want? I said, don't know. He said, what strength do you want it? Don't know. He said, how big's the snake? I went. He said, okay. He said, I'll give you 10% for formaldehyde. And he said, and you can have, you know, this will be fine. So then I'm kind of like digging in my pocket, like, how much? And he said, no, it's free. So then I had the dilemma, was how was I going to post this to the great doctor? Because, hey, putting it in the glass bottle was going to cost a fortune. I figured the glass bottle was going to break. There's no way my pocket money was going to stretch to a glass pocket full of formaldehyde and postage and a wooden box to take it. But I had a great plan, which actually turned out to be probably a better plan than what I could have done if I'd done the right thing. My great plan was to take a piece of tissue paper, and I put the snake on the tissue paper, and I soaked the tissue paper with formaldehyde, and I soaked it and soaked it. I soaked the snake and I wrapped it up. Then I put it in a plastic bag, but in those days we didn't have Ziploc bags, which probably wouldn't have worked either. And I thought, if I roll it, my mum had no idea this was going on. I thought, if I roll it over and over and over again, it's going to create a seal. And if I put sellotape on it, that's going to work, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my mind it was going to work. So anyway, so I posted this to the Natural Museum with my letter, dear Dr. Broadley, I found this specimen just for you, yours sincerely, Gregory Rasmussen. So, and I'm waiting now, patiently, when am I going to get mine? When's this golden letter going to arrive from that museum? And finally, after weeks, this letter comes back. In those days, postal was very slow, and they had the double emblem crest of the Naturalist Museum in Zimbabwe. And I get this letter back saying, dear Gregory, it was thank you for your letter that arrived in a rather damp envelope. Well, the truth of the matter is that damp envelope meant that he got a phone call from the postmaster saying, one of your customers has sent you a bag. All the mail has been completed. Whole mailbag has gone to the wall. So he's receiving these blasphemies. But anyway, of course he opens the bag. And it turns out that clearly sometimes in life luck's on your side. And it turned out that he was just finishing describing a new species. And this was sample number 13. And he's like, and he's collected in the same area where I found it. And I've given him all the coordinates, and he was like, and so when I said, I don't come and meet you, he said, yes. And that was the end of his life, and my beginning. But anyway, I used to come and help him in the museum like a 10-year-old. But anyway, some of that early background of mine I'm going to share, because that's not just a fun story, because it was hilarious. But the fact is that early memory has shaped a lot of what I do today. And how, not only in my field work, my ability to do field work, is basically his work, his mentorship. Obviously, he's not here anymore because he died a few years ago. He was a herpetologist that was still publishing papers until he was 83 years old. Pretty incredible guy. So how did it work out? I was doing a reptile survey in Wangya National Park. helping an ornithological survey, and at one point the ornithological team, it was getting ridiculous trying to collect data with ornithologists. They kept trying to go bird party, and I don't know what they meant by bird party. I never understood bird parties. And these creatures would be running around curating ornithology, serious, obviously ornithological scientists. And I would be trying to collect data on painted dogs. And at one point, so all I could do was sit on the hood of the Land Rover looking for reptiles while they were driving like some crazy speed on bush roads that was wide as the vehicles. And at one point, the curator stopped the car dead, and he said, "Greg, get in the car." And I'm like, I'm looking, I can't see it. I'm kind of one-track mind. You know, the new definition of one-track mind. Anyway, so I couldn't see him, so I said, "Get in, where's the lizard?" And he said, "Get in the car." I said, "Where's the lizard?" He said, "Get in the car." And when I said, "Where's the lizard?" for the third time, he said the magic word. He said, "Lion." And then, sure enough, I'm like, "No, I'm getting in the car." They stopped just to look at a pride of 10 lions, and this idiot's jumping off the ground looking for a lizard that was about that big. I hadn't noticed them at all. But when that story got back to Natural History Museum, by which stage I disappeared in disgust, because I'd had a great field trip, but I hadn't collected much data. I came back finally, and the curator said, "There's a guy who wants you to help work with painted dogs, or wild dogs as they were called in those days." And I said, "Doesn't he know I work with reptiles?" He said, "Yes, but he needs somebody with extensive field experience." And that I got. And that's what got me into this amazing species. And no, this was a challenge, this is a challenge for a lot of young biologists. They battle to get this golden field experience that helps them not only be amazing, good conservation biologists, but helps them to fulfill some of the things they places they want to go. So this guy takes me on board, again his name was Dr. Josh Ginsberg, and we wound up the project after about 18 months, by which stage I'd worked with the painted dogs for about 18 months, and I was amazed. When I started in 1988, there were no more than 200 painted. I started in 1987. The first thing I did was to work on an annual census. What have we got? And it turned out we had less than 200 dogs. I'm going to share with you how that journey developed over the years. But anyway, so where are we at the moment? I'm going to share a little bit about this. So the other thing I did in the early days was to do a classic study. We call it a latitudinal and longitudinal study, where you take a pack of dogs and we study them intensively. We knew nothing about the dog. In fact, the only thing that was true about the painted dog was that they lived in packs and they ate meat. Everything else was complete rubbish. So, just to share with you where we are, and this is another, I'm based here near Victoria Falls. This is here, I have to use my fingers with the pointer, doesn't work. But what's really exciting in Southern Africa now, we have the Khaza landscape, which is 5 countries. This was a dream 20 years ago. 5 countries have now finally ratified and got together to form the largest transfrontier potential conservation area in Africa and maybe even in the world, if you exclude some of the Russian steppes. It's twice the size of Texas. It's big. And I know the Texans always think that they have the monopoly on it, but they don't. And seriously, and so what's happening within Khaza is that there are a number of research groups all working towards a common goal, working in partnership, working in teams, to try separate teams but working with each having a different job. So my current focal area is in this very complex landscape, which by the way is about the size of the state of Virginia, where I've got this mosaic of partial wildlife area, human landscape, a very small protected area. But the thing is, as we say under the conflict, my mission is connectivity counts. You know, if we don't create connectivity within these landscapes, they're not worth the salt of the paper they're printed on. So this is where I am, and basically helping create connectivity between all these populations. Khaza, by the way, now hold the painted dog population is about, in the wild, is about 4,000 dogs in the world. The Kazakh population, the whole Kazakh population, holds at least 50% of that number. So it's a very important landscape. It's been decided geographically because it has a multiple of different habitats, so it encompasses all the different habitat types, whether it's savanna, arid systems, woodland, forested areas, and so this is the landscape I'm working in. More importantly, hey, the landscape that I'm working in are the pendant dogs, my absolute favourite. But I started working with that guy, Josh, and really, in reality, I only told him I was going to work for 6 months, and 33 years later, I'm still working with pendant dogs. The bottom line was, what happened was that the dogs themselves got right under my skin. Scientifically, socially, they were the most fascinating species I've ever come across. You know, I'm not saying reptiles are not social, but then, you know, but I'd studied social systems, and you know, I'd looked at primate society as a biologist, young biologist can do. But I no knew anything about the pendant dog. But when I came across them, the first thing I realized was that the fact that everyone was talking about the savage ruthless killer that was, you know, killing cattle, for example. So of course I did a study, and it turned out that they were responsible for 1.7% of the ranch's losses. Interestingly, that figure applies throughout most predators, by the way. You know, the damage by most predators is no way anything like anyone likes to make out. Very convenient to make it out, because maybe insurance claims are good or whatever. And but what was amazing about them is, here we have a species, now here's the rub. Here we have a species where there is no dominance exhibited throughout the whole system. Packs do not fight for territory. Within the pack, every individual is treated equally. So it's almost like the pirate's code, you know, where everyone shares the plunder or takes the hit. So alpha, betas, and gammas, as we call them, we don't call them dominant. The alpha leads the pack, and the betas are the support group, and the gammas are just kind of there. You know, so in human society, we've always got, we say we have chiefs and Indians. It's the same thing. The only thing is how they become chief is really, really fascinating. To become a painted dog chief, life starts, yeah, here. They are pretty ugly, aren't they? But if someone's got to support these ugly little critters. It burns my heart when I think that that's how they extirpated. You know, they were under slaughter in the same way as wolves were, and the way they finally brought them down, the bounties, is to dig them out of dens, and if we keep doing that year in, year out, you could wipe the population out. I mean, in Zimbabwe, when I always say to my students, we go back in history, you start looking back as far as you possibly can. The bounty in Zimbabwe started in 1907. By 1947, there were no painted dogs to be found in the country to be shot. No, there were no more bounty things. And then 40 years later, and they did it by just digging them out of dens every single year. There's no reproduction, and then on the population collapses. But these pups, by the way, are the ones that are already at this age, they start observing the attributes of their peers. So, all these pups, the males will be looking to see which is the boldest, the most interested, and the females will be doing the same. And they'll be start choosing at this age, looking for their future leader. I mean, for example, in this case here, already, and these are pointers that we get to see in pups that we can then evaluate later in life. Here we've got a situation where we've got, keep pressing on the button, trying to do a pointer. Here we've got a situation where we've got an alpha female, she's suckling, she's got pups that are 2 weeks old. Now, just by the way, because I'm going to talk about another part of the problem that we're facing at the moment, I've got to give you a little bit of background to painted dogs and their physiology and their ecology. Very simple. These pups have got to go nomadic 12 weeks old. Now by the time they're 12 weeks old, their leg lengths have to be a correct size, otherwise they can't go nomadic, because every day they've got to do 5 miles a day. Right, so it's the same analogy as with the seabird. The winter's going to close in, the ice is going to close in. If you don't get that food, you are going to die. So it's the same with pony dogs. So the cost of being at this den is the real estate cost. It's very expensive being. They've got to go and get food 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles away, or you can come all the way back. You know, so the energetic cost is about 40% higher by being at the den. So they've got to get out of there. How do they get out of there? She can't, so they've got a metabolism that's 2.5 times that of a wolf. So these pups are not eating what your domestic dog eats, even your amazing puppy.
He is amazing.
He's amazing. But he can't eat what these little suckers can eat. These guys have got a metabolism that's 2.5 times that of a wolf. They go into meat very early. This is just under 3 weeks old. She's given a signal to the pack to say deliver me, and they will start. This pup here actually, no problem, turned out to be one of the alphas. He was the first one on the meat. We get all our data from camera traps. And he was the first one on the meat. Hey, and the other pups are going, wow, you're pretty impressive, even though you're 3 weeks old. They start to notice among themselves. And they will then get to a point where they will, once suckling is over, they will start eating about 6 or 7 meals a day. And every single meal the pack tries to fill them up. As they do that, they end up at 12 weeks with proper legs up the right leg. So you'll see here, we split our sample into disturbed and undisturbed ends, because this has become such a problem. We now have tour operators, film crews, and in some cases researchers masquerading as, you know, concerned scientists, concerned biologists, one trying to look at dens just for the purpose of photography. But what do the data show? Well, the first thing is, of course, we're very concerned about growth rate. So we measure the growth rate, obviously photogrammetrically, all our photographs, and we take all these fancy measurements. You don't need to learn all this. But what the bottom line is we get a leg length to body ratio, because what really should happen is that the shoulder should be slightly higher, and so the left front leg and the back leg should be a certain balance, so that there's a balance in pitch, right? And we actually know from running in domestic dog and wolf studies that if this is slightly lower, the cost of running is 15 or 20% higher. Just little knock-ons. Well, worse than that, and obviously we can't get all the pups to stand in a nice little neat row, and they're not very trainable at 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks. So we wait for one to be there, and then we measure it. And this particular pup has got leg length 9% shorter than he should be at that growth. So what we're finding is that not only do the pups have short legs, they can't go nomadic until 16 weeks, and now they're stuck at 16 weeks. But then we looked to see what was going on. Play behavior wasn't happening because they're spending more time down the den. So of course they're not making those neural connections. But then we followed individuals like this into adulthood, a large number of them, and found that if dogs born at a disturbed den never made the grade, they never ever made the same height, they never made the same leg length, basically. And they also, when we did other measurements, we found out that they could cure 15% less food. This is just a knock-on effect of someone coming with the camera. You know, we think of hunters, we think of the farmers, the damage they were doing. And so we are still collecting all the final data before we publish it. Just to share with you, and I'm going to also share with you, some people say, well, what else, you know, sometimes these are the sort of kind of the research data that are leading to what we're doing. But I also want to share with you this year a conservation effort that has never been done before, because we are in a situation with wildlife today that like years ago, if you said to me how to protect rhino, for example, you'd say, fence, you know, not fence the area, guard the area, anti-poaching scout. We now know, because of the pressure on wildlife, But the only way to safely protect a rhino is to walk behind it with a gun. Painted dogs, we can't really do that. But we've got to help wildlife even through series, because everything is man-induced. And so we're working, and so in this particular case, we heard the hoot call. And this is a painted dog's hoot call, by the way. Because we had a situation where, because of cars killing painted dogs in a particular pack, because of snares killing other ones, but mainly cars, which is really scary, on a public access highway running through a national park, we had a pack that was struggling to raise the pups. We put out every year a reward for $400 US to get everyone to tell us where there's a den. Mainly because we want to protect that den from tour operators and photographers and safari operators and film crews, you name it. And so we had an operation, and we called it Operation Anne, after one of the alpha female was named Anne after a very special conservationist who passed away a couple of years ago. But what happened was we get called, we paid the $400 to the den, and there were 5 pups, 2 days old, and they weren't moving. They were alive. When I first saw them, I'm like, who's these pups there? What's going on? I'd never seen a situation like this. And so I caught the dog alpha female the next day. And the first thing I noticed, which you can see in this photograph, is that she was skin and bone. But before I noticed that, I'd also heard her screaming for like 2 or 3 minutes every time the dogs came near, because she was starving. I mean, if I took this and had taken this dog into the SPCA and said, oh, I was looking after this dog, they would have prosecuted me, hopefully. And so we had a situation where we contacted national parks and said, what do we do? I said, I want to intervene, actually. I said, parks, it's endangered. I said, I need permission to intervene. And they said, oh, what do you want to do? Dig the pups out the den? Which has always been the standard approach. I said, no, I do not want to take them out of the wild. We've got to keep them, our job is to keep them alive in the wild. And so they said, fine. I said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go for supplementary feed. And so for the first time, now painted dogs, by the way, don't take bait. That's why the farmers could never manage to slaughter them so easily, because they then had to resort to other methods, as I told you about. So the first day, we get 100 pounds of meat. This is a field operation. 100 pounds of meat in a body bag. Had to be hermetically sealed. We didn't want one drop of blood to come off the carcass and leak. A 4-mile walk in the bush with a body bag and my student team. And as it turned out, we also had 2 visitors from Oklahoma City Zoo that were joining us at that time. And they said, can we help? I said, good. Take a handle, here we go. And we took it through. And again, knowing the data, what we did know, the only time painted dogs ever take bait is when they're really starving, when their back's up against the wall. And sure enough, we got the bait within 200 yards of the dogs. We played some puppy calls. They came, they found the bait, but they still waited a few hours. They knew it was there. And when we were gone, with camera traps, we managed to watch them all feeding. And that was the beginning of it. But then we weren't satisfied with that. We were continuing to monitor the dogs and see how they were doing. And how were we monitoring? Of course, by camera traps. Were the pups getting enough food, for example? But if you look at that pup there, I think that's enough. The other one's laid down, he gave up, he couldn't stand up anymore. But bottom line is, seriously, that is how painted dogs feed their pups in the wild. Because they've got these high metabolisms, they eat, a few hours later that's gone, they're like, oh, I'm so hungry. No one ever feeds me. These pups get to a point where they can eat 8 pounds of meat per puppy per day. But that's all going into growth. They're almost doubling their weight at a certain point every single day. And so it's exceptional. And then so we continued the monitoring program of Anne and the pack. We called them the Musketeer Pack, and they started off as three musketeers, and they were joined by 2 others. I know, they really are so ugly, I know. But again, interestingly, even from the camera trap data, we started to get an understanding of the pups. And then, so this particular dog, identifiable by his markings, that's the beauty of painted dogs. There's no two alike, every single one's different. He was a gammon dog. Clearly, he was always doing his own thing, the others were playing with the bone, and he was digging a hole. And he would dig his trenches. And that's why I called him Digger, no surprises. But you can see by his belly, he wasn't being compromised in any shape or form. Because they shared everything with Digger and everyone else, because that's what painted dogs do. But then we can also see what we call the emerging alphas. So we had a sequence where one of the pups saw the camera trap, and all the pups, they went, oh, that's so scary. And then it was only a millisecond later where one said, what's that? That is an emerging alpha. That's tomorrow. That was the dog that they're all looking at. Oh, he was so brave. He went up to that machine, or that thing. And this is, so we continued to monitor until D-Day, which was 12 weeks down the line, when we wanted to see what was going to happen. Because if Anne went nomadic for 12 weeks, we'd done our job properly. If she didn't, it meant we hadn't. And the 12 weeks on the nose, she went nomadic, but more importantly, that's what she looked like. So we turned the skin and bone in 12 weeks over into a dog that's got all her energy reserves back, and all it took, and it wasn't, and people, it wasn't that much food. We weren't delivering food every day. What we were doing was we were using the fact her satellite collar was telling us the second she left the den. And when she left the den to go hunting, we're like, we've got to bring food because she's hungry. There's no, and we know this from data before, no alpha female's gonna, she's not gonna leave her pups at the vagaries of, but when they're small like this, when you're starving, they have to make this horrible decision, do I go and get food, or do I protect my pups? And so we would always come in with our pizza delivery, as we started to call it, or with our, it doesn't sound so good as a body bag, does it? And just to share some of my team, I have a great team. I'm very proud of my team. This is some of my students. And my whole thing is to get them field experience, as much field experience as possible. And then, of course, I have another member of my team. He also acts as a scat dog. He'll find scat whenever I want it. He'll find sense. He'll pick up on sense when I choose. And with scatting, and so that was Operation Anne. But ultimately, with all my work, I'm very committed that science has to underpin all our conservation work. I couldn't have pulled off Operation Anne without a knowledge of exactly what should have been happening, a knowledge of where the threats were going to lie. Now, I'm just changing gear a bit, but one of my passions in life, apart from painting dogs, is feasting. And let me tell you something. It's exciting stuff, because here we're doing genetic samples, stress hormone samples, parasites, and what did the dogs have to do. I mean, people work is priceless. But more important than that, I always see it as my mission to see that if I can get my students as passionate about feces as I am, I know that I've won. I've won the game. And so we're working on. I'm working on trying to develop a centre actually that will help students right throughout this whole wider Carlton region. Now within this, I'm just going to share with you, I've just brought a map up again, because within this Carlton region we have the Carlton Carnival Coalition. And within the Carlton Carnival Coalition, as I said, we have this connectivity count story. Well, I mentioned earlier on road traffic accidents is our major threat. And so one of our other major projects this year has been to look at road traffic accidents. We've got a public access road running through a exclusive wildlife area. And in fact, it's this wildlife area through here, and it's pure wildlife all the way through here. But at the moment, just this one little section of road, our data is showing killing between 4,000 and 8,000 vertebrates a year. Now, without the data, we're not going to solve it. So what do we do? So immediately, but it was more than that. Why did I get involved so intensively? Was that every year penguin dog packs were going boom and bust. So this is a kind of classic case where a single species, the research of a single species cascades down, because we're not just now, our road traffic campaign is not just looking at helping penny dogs, but all these other species. And in fact, while I've been in the States, I received another very disturbing photograph. 2 rhinos. And this is and ultimately it's one of those campaigns where, because we have elephants, I'm going to talk a little bit, because we have elephants, we can't do standard, let's put barriers up so the drivers can do exactly what they like. We have to take a situation where the drivers, the petrol heads in the society, have to slow down. And so as a scientist, we've been collecting data on who's doing what. We've got to know who our target group is. For example, everyone was saying, well, we know the problem, it's those trucks. Well, I could have then spent all my research money or conservation money educating truck drivers. Speed-wise, the trucks weren't doing increased past the speed limit, but everybody else was. We started to look at, by vehicle class companies, we found that, for all these safari companies, only one was keeping anywhere close to the speed limit. They did receive a very nice letter that said, bravo. We're still crafting our letter to the others to say, are you aware? It takes a lot longer to get me. But the other one has to have the message, are you aware that your drivers are driving very bad? Because we are. But there's more internal to that. So as a result of that, we then had to work with the Ministry of Roads and got permission to put up road signs. And we had a big public relations exercise with the police. And the thing was that, and we got on ZBC, Zimbabwe Broadcasting Television data. But the thing was they've got the only road signs in Africa that are covered, now we have to cover them with barbed wire. Because the elephants are treated them like little mollypops. And so now, another challenge. But we evaluated it after the road signs. We made new friends. After the road signs, we could see that we had some effect, but not a great effect. So everything we do, we monitor it. But what we could see was that the internationals had to change their game. So we kind of made new friends. Started then interacting with stakeholders like the police. I came up with this bright idea and I said, I want to put up dummy surveillance cameras. I mean, they're very expensive. They're all going to be $6 each. And he said, well, we've got to get government approval to put them up because you could be doing high-level surveillance. And he thought about it and he said, well, look, if we can, and this is how different people think different. This is why I like, multi-partnerships, people who think different. He said, if we can have permission to put up these road signs, he said, I want a sign. This is the chief of police for the whole region. This is a big job. And I said, oh, what's the sign? He said, well, it's got to be quite, meaningful. I said, okay, what does it look like? He said, it looks like that. Well, if I'm quite convinced it may not fly in the States. But, my mission is to achieve. And if the chief of police wants that, he can have it. If everyone's got an argument with it, because my logo won't be on there, his will be, and that will pass. And if we put that up, I can guarantee that automatically every international, when we do the data thing, every international will be like, whew. We will nail it. There are many other dance moves going. There's lots of conservation moves. As we speak, my undergraduate and graduate student team are at the border badgering every motorist to get them to do questionnaires. We're trying to find out what's going on in those heads. So we're doing the social science studies. We've got we're trying to evoke laws that are there that are saying that It's an offence to kill an animal without reporting it, so we're going to be getting a hotline. But the whole thing is that we want to take whatever we learn from this right throughout that landscape that is twice the size of Texas. And if we achieve that, if this one little tiny little cabbage patch of an area achieves that, we've achieved goal. I'm going to switch gear now, talk a little bit about our community development, and some of the work that we're doing. It's not all about science, but it's certainly about education. And when I said earlier, I gave you that story about my working with the Natural History Museum, I often felt I had a duty of debt to, the younger generation, apart from the fact it's the best common sense in the world. I always know that, when I said earlier on, I used to be working with the ranchers, and the one particular, I used to go to all their barbecues, and they would never let me talk to their children because they were like I was talking to workers, I was evil. That's what they used to say. Don't talk to him, he's what comes out of his mouth. Talking about saving predators, Well, anyway, the truth was bad that game. And I used to know where their children went to school, and I used to go to their schools because there's no influence there. And I talked to their kids. And then at one meeting, I always remember one of these meetings, this rancher and his wife came quite fiercely up to me and stopped and said, "We want to talk to you." And I said, "Oh, I'm here." And they said, "Do you," and then the husband couldn't really spit it out, and then the wife said it for him. She said, "Do you really think that predators, there's a way forward for predators and ranchers?" Before I could even say, "Well, of course," I'm not going to say that, they said, "Because our daughter does." And I'm like, that's the power of education. I said, "What school does she go to?" And they mentioned the name of the school, Whitestone School. I'm like, "Yes, job done." But we're working at all levels. We're working at training students, but also at all levels, not only from young, but we're working at developing accommodation for up to 40 students at a time so that we can run meaningful workshops. Because that's one of the challenges we have, of spaces that are not commercial, where we can run workshops, where we can have someone, and the workshop isn't a day voice call. The workshop often is 3 or 4 days, just when you get to start to know someone, it's time to wrap up sometimes, because they're all thinking about, well, the venue is going to cost us so many $1,000s a day, and the accommodation. And particularly in these wildlife areas, because the premium on accommodation is golden because of tourism. So, so we did a whole workshop with these rangers, and one of the things we wanted to know was, what do you need to know? So rather than saying, "You need to know this," so I did a whole survey among the rangers, and these were national park rangers, forestry rangers, communal rangers. I brought them all together. And I gave them all a sticky notepad and said, "Write down what you want to know, and you can put it on and no one's going to know." And it turned out that when we brought in these hundreds and hundreds of ideas that people wanted to know, one of the most common themes that they wanted to learn to swim. You wouldn't have spotted it. And why? Because they work in the rivers and they lose their comrades. What a way. These are guys that will take on a rhino poacher, an elephant poacher, and so on. We've lost them because they can't swim. These are the sort of things in conservation sometimes, it's why we have to ask, we have to have the science, we have to ask the right questions. We're also running workshops for chief trainers to integrate conservation into their lesson planning. And I'd like to say that, particularly while I'm here at NIARB, this is Zulu, our conservation educator. Because of Joel, because of NIARB, because of 2 other organisations, Joel, they would come out to the States and learn to teach about conservation, other layers of conservation education, not to mention, he came back with all the stuff we need, posters, books, loaded back, all those sort of things that we need, and now we are pushing that curriculum forward. Joel, you're supposed to be here when I'm talking about Zulu doing amazing work. Yeah. Seriously. So, we're teaching teachers now how to be more child-friendly in their lesson planning. I always have that memory of Mrs. Doubtfire and that dinosaur guy. Of course everyone was looking forward to see, won't they? I started to work with the dog many years ago. This isn't long after I started. The only thing that's changed there now is the logo. I mean, but seriously, it was always really important, and that was also driven by my early childhood. I felt the need. I knew what I'd gained by working with this, having the luck to work with this curated herpetology. So we have a program where we're trying to bring kids into science, trying to bring citizen science into their lesson planning and their learning. This is something we always do with their low radio tracking, but we're also working with them, working with vegetation on all species level approach. Very much hands-on. We have the kids measuring trees, and then get them to look, and we say, well, what is because this is communal area, so we say, well, what is the age class of the tree? When they suddenly notice that they're all young trees, and we say, why do you think that is? Oh, because now we're chopping down too many trees, and they want to get transfer blended. We use that data collection to show them how to understand some of these issues. But we're building also a bush camp. I built one before in another area I was working, too far away for the kids to go from that way. We built a bush camp where we can have 30 kids coming to stay, and each 2 kids could get a rendezvous, and then they come and stay for 3 or 4 or 5 days. Then we really get that immersion experience, and that's the closest I can get. That when this curator of herpetology, whose name is Dr. Don Broadley, when he took me out on my first field trip when I was 11 years old, I always will never forget that moment. The fact that I probably made a complete disgrace of myself by stabbing myself in my leg with a knife that I bought, and that's another long story. I was probably the last thing they wanted on a 3-week field trip, but they got me anyway. And they couldn't send me back, and we were so far from habitation. So we're working on this, and in my last bush camp, just to give you, if an image says a lot, we had a vehicle where we took kids into the park. We're raising funds for another vehicle. But this is what the kids look like when they're in the park. They were just absolutely smitten, and we were taking them in to see the giraffe and anything they saw, it didn't matter what it was. And so that's a program we're working towards. We are doing the education. And now Joel's here, I can say thank you, Joel, for helping us with our education program with Zulu and continuing commitment. I personally am very committed also to getting young women into conservation, and because I see that we only have half the population trying to solve the problem, well, we need the whole population trying to solve it. And here we have well, my mission is to get young Zimbabweans with a bias towards women into serious conservation, get them through master's programs. And when I have a young woman like this, who writes that from a tender age she dreamed of being a scientist who will work tirelessly to make a difference. Well, I was probably the only one, her family didn't understand that, but she did, and I did. And she came and joined me, and we made sure she completed her master's. And I've actually, in the last 5 years, I've managed to get scholarships 5 of my students to do master's programs, 3 of which were completed, and 4 of the 5 are girls. And so my whole idea is to build this conservation army of young conservationists, but also get women and young children who would never have a chance to go into science. And to share that, I'm just going to share, finally, I'm going back to share, like I said at the beginning, Jill's story with this. I've got a conservation theory. Well, I'm going to share with you my own story of that. Was some 5 or 6 years ago, I had a teacher, a head teacher came to me, and he said, I've got this young woman, and said she's just different, and she's keen, and she's studious, and he said that her mother's going to pull her away from school, and she's not going to go anywhere. I said, why? And he said, oh, her mother says that she's got no money, it's money. He said, but you know the reason why. He said, anyway, she still managed to send the boy to school, but not the daughter. And I said, yes, and the reason why is that she's performed the traditional role of cleaning the house and looking after the kids for another few generations, and that would be her lot. And I said to him, I said, you know what? here's the parallel with Joe. I said, he said, is there anything you can do? I said, I've got a project. I have a project for that. He said, do you? I said, yes. No, I didn't, but I did now. So on the fly, I said, tell her mother and her to come and see me. And when her mother and daughter came, first question I asked mother was, I said, why is the sweet? I'm so sad to hear the sweet is leaving school. And she said, oh, well, you know, it's money, like. I said, well, that's a luck. I said, but we can solve that. I said, we can give her an internship for 9 months to work with us because she's already lost the first term of school. I said, we can give her an internship for 9 months. I said, and then if she passes that with us and everything's fine, I said, we'll pay for the rest of her schooling until she can qualify for university. So she got to that far, she qualified for university, and then we wanted to say, right, university, we're going to pay for your university. At that point there was a little familial push me, pull in between her and her mother, and was like, no, but still carry on looking after the kids, you can go to university later. And her daughter said, no, there's no way, I'm going to university now. At which point there was some sort of leave the house, and we, the PDRT, said, well, we have a home here, we need it. Well, Laswita is now in her 3rd year at university. She's getting very high marks. But importantly to me, this gal is the first woman ever in a community of 3,000 people to be going to university. And she's going to be the first one to pass in 2 years' time for this 4-year degree program. We're very proud of that, and we're going to keep promoting that, we're going to keep pushing that. So a whole idea, but Laswita herself, being from that village community, she's a role model for the other girls in the area. And I'm very proud of that. So we have many visions for our future. We are building, we've only got this little bit down, we're building a conservation ecology centre. We want to have a research lab facility where we can analyse all our own biological samples, because at the moment it's getting harder and harder and harder to ship biological samples anywhere. You almost need to be able to do, you know, on my feces, I mean, for goodness sake, if I can't look up, treat my fecal samples, you know, it's really, and we want to have labs that will serve cars. We can ship them quite easily within southern Africa, but getting them anywhere else externally is an absolute nightmare. We want to have conference and lecture hall space and breakaway rooms. I did actually love the artist's impression when this is what the finished buildings look like. When he threw a dog and a giraffe in there, I'm like, you know, dream, that could be a dream. Maybe we could pull that off. But seriously, just to share a lasting closing, when I started in 1987, there were less than 200 dogs. I did a census 30 years later. The population was some 750 dogs. We can make a difference, and I always say please support. I normally have a wish list, but this year we had something where we needed more support, and as Joel mentioned it, we had a rather severe fire. Climate change has created electrical storms that we've not seen before. We're now going to have to mobilise with lightning conductors that no one else has ever needed to use before. We had a lightning bolt that hit our main building, and that's what it looked like when we got to see it. That's a little bit about what it looked like before. I'm not just saying we had no building in the beginning. But I had a team, my whole team came out. We harvest our own water. You probably saw a pit full of water. That was our own money. We harvest our own water. Basically all our water supply, our own harvested water supply that we've taken a long time to collect, we had to use to put the fire out. We had teams of people with buckets. It was like the old movies, you know, where everyone's just one lot's filling a bucket and there's a chain. There's no way we could get the kind of pressure we needed, you know, to put such a fire out. And this raged on for 3 hours. But we were very happy that we did manage, at least whilst we lost the building completely, we managed to save all the vegetation. And we were very proud of that, and there was as much a focus on our mind. It wasn't just the loss of the building, but it was the loss of the habitat. So please do support us, and thank you very much for listening.
Well, as you can see, there's a reason why we partner. You know, it's not just anyone who is going to put their lives on the line, and Greg has actually done that before as well. You know, to build something so phenomenal there in Africa, and then continue to support that and gain support from other institutions, that's a hard thing to do. Anyone who has worked in the nonprofit world knows how hard that is to do here, but to do that internationally is even more challenging. And then, of course, to have setbacks like the fire, that could devastate organizations, right? And we don't want to see that happen. So as I was mentioning before, like you see the cards and things on the table, you see the snare wire art that's there as well. Can I see that list sitting right there? Thank you very much. So we have a wide variety of things here that Greg brought with him, so that if you are interested in supporting the work that they're doing, of course there's that website that you can go directly to and make a donation, but you can also purchase a few things, right? Now I had to step out there for a bit, but did you talk about the snare wire?
No, I didn't. All right, so that's why I need you.
Well, you know, because, you know, the funny thing is, like, you may look at, you know, these great bumper stickers with the Slow Down campaign and saving animals through that way, you know, or you look at the great photography from those that have worked with Greg and put those into cards, and that's really great. And of course, you look at the Slow Down signs that, you know, they're posting as a reminder of that literally is saving the lives of an endangered species, but none of them compare to what is sitting on your table right there, right? That snare wire, would you care to tell them what snare wire is?
Okay, that is wire made from snares that are set to kill animals. And one of the big challenges we had in the early days is all these people were collecting snares, these wires, and then somebody would break into the snare room, right, and poke us, and then it'd all go back into circulation again. I could see it not again here. And so I'm like, we've got to get rid of this wire. And I used to bury some of them if it came into my hand. Then I was incorporated into buildings and plastering walls, like you'll never get off it again. And then I said that the best way is to cut it up into little pieces and get trained artisans to make a living. And now we have a number of artisans that make full-on living by making these pieces of art. And suddenly the wire then gets used. These copper wires, by the way, are used to catch birds. They use the tristan to catch birds. And we artisans now make an income out of making snare art. So as much as anything, you are supporting artisans. Now, I didn't get the chance to share a bit more, but particularly the Operation Anne obviously didn't end at 12 weeks. We are now using satellite call. Every single community where she goes anywhere near, we're making a presence, we're making ourselves known to the community. And we're going to try and bring into them income generating projects. So they get to see the value of wildlife in their area. It's not just something that will pass through and maybe occasionally, something where, well, the livelihoods of those are connect to our livelihoods. And certainly in a wildlife safari area, that is important. And so there's a big story behind the snare art, and it provides a lot of income for a lot of artisans.
Many people think that if you are employing people to make artwork and things to that effect, that they just go down to Home Depot or to Lowe's and they buy a bunch of wire and they just sit around, you know, their house and they have a craft room and they like make this stuff. And that may happen here, but that does not happen there. And when we look at that, it's not just a beautiful representation of art, you know, of the painted dog or the giraffe. That literally sitting on that table is something that is saving the life of animals in the field. And it's not even just Greg and his team working with the people to create that art, but how did you even get the wire? What do you have communities do to get the wire?
Anti-poaching.
So like you send people into the bush
Yeah,
to pull out the wire.
Yeah, people collect the wire and then the wire is turned into wire.
Because when we talk, you know, one of the big things we talk about here at the zoo all the time is conservation action, right? We educate to inspire people to take conservation action. Now, here in the Quad Cities, conservation action could be like, well, recycling. It could be like carpooling to work, you know, or something like that. It could be picking up trash from the river. You know, it could be those sort of things. But it is not go out into the bush and collect poachers' traps and bring them back so that we can make them into artwork and support our community with a livelihood. Because the risk, the inherent risk of going out and removing poachers' traps is, well, you know, the poachers, right? They're still there, they're still looking for those things. I don't know if you ever suffer retribution from any of that sort of thing.
Well, actually, the main thing we're worried about is elephants.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know. So that is kind of that thing, is when you look at these pieces, there's so much more to it than that cute little thing that's sitting on your shelf, right? It represents so much more. It represents entire communities, represents the work that they're doing, the literal saving of animals. So please consider that. And if you are interested in giving more than what the price is noted, because you may know that for that painted dog you see there, you can $20 donation, right? But it does say $20 minimum, right? If you want to give more, you absolutely can. We will be collecting some things over here. As far as credit cards, because we want all of the money from any of this stuff to go directly to Painted Dog Research Trust. If you're giving cash, you'll give it to us and then we'll facilitate it to them. But if you're going to use credit card, we're going to go directly to wildnet.org/PDRT to do that. You can do that on your phones, but do it with me so I can actually see the amount of money you're giving, so I'll give you the stuff from there. Or if you aren't using your phone, we do have a laptop over here in which we can conduct that as well.
When you do it on the web, though, it has to come up as Painted Dog Research Trust.
Yeah, that's why it has to be PDRT at the end.
So if any of our live users want to have one of these ornaments for themselves, where would they pay?
They can actually still come right here to Niagara Zoo.
Yeah, we're gonna be probably nationwide, maybe. You know, we're gonna start pushing this real hard.
Well, we have this on our e-commerce site through niagarazu.com.
Okay.
But that is not up and running yet. But it will be within the month, so we can work on that.
Okay.
And they can contact us at Niagara Zoo. In fact, you can contact us through education@niagarazu.com, and we can facilitate it through there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to be over here, and if you guys want to contribute any of this, you can.
Yeah.
But for the rest of you, ask questions.
Yeah, I know time is short, so